Hello, good morning, Peters Township. My name is Adam Smelko, and I'm a junior at Peters Township High School. As technology changes, so does policy. Education today is not like education in the past. Modern technologies have given us numerous possibilities and greatly impacted how students learn. With these modern conveniences, there are also drawbacks. In today's current school climate, cheating has become increasingly rampant. To combat this issue, the school has enacted the Academic Integrity Policy last year. Today, I'm joined with Mr. Christian Lesnett, Vice Principal of the 9th and 10th graders and Head of Peters Township Character Counts Committee, to discuss the current effectiveness of this issue and what the future has to store. Thank you for joining me today, Mr. Lesnett.
Hey, glad to be here.
So I'd like to start off with asking you just basically what is the Honor Code?
Well, the Honor Code is an extension of the newer school district policy on academic integrity. You could say that the Honor Code is one of the actionable pieces of that that's visible in the classrooms. The Honor Code is basically a reminder of our commitment, our mutual commitment to the values of integrity, honesty, in that any assessment that you take, that it is your work and not the work of others. Mm-hmm. That each assessment you take is a true measure of your input, your ability, your preparation, and that any work that you've done is yours and yours alone. And so the Honor Code is the words that you see in the classroom or the words that get placed on an assignment that remind you of that commitment.
Why was there originally a need for an Honor Code in our school?
So I would rephrase the question. I would not say, why is there need for an Honor Code? I would say, what created the opportunity to consider adopting one? Because an Honor Code, what it does is it provides students clarity for moral and ethical decisions. Mm-hmm. What we found, we had a committee that met a couple years ago that was the impetus for the creation of the school policy on academic integrity. And the reason why the committee came together is because due to the changing rapidity of communication through technology, their answers were being shared, pictures were being shared, tests, homework assignments, things like that. And it was becoming a cultural norm for students to not do the work on their own, but to seek the path of least resistance in terms of efficiency and get other kids to just divide the work. And so where work was being assigned for everyone to get a practice on something, kids weren't necessarily allowing themselves to go through the motions of actually learning from that work because they were just copying it. It was being shared via pictures on phones, and this was becoming a growing concern, not only from teachers but from students themselves, because they were being pressured to either receive or to give copies of work that they had done or gotten on their phone. And so the committee came together, and the committee was comprised of teachers and students and administrators. And so the decision was made that we wanted to go and have the opportunity to have an Honor Code to just help draw a clearer boundary for people and to help kids avoid being in situations where they've been pressured to do something that might be a violation of their own character or moral values or ethical values. And so the Honor Code does assist in drawing a clearer line.
So at our school, there's a very harsh climate of schoolwork. Do you feel that the competitive nature has fostered like a more cheating based, like kids feel like it's easier to cheat than like actually just do all the work because it's kind of gets a lot sometimes?
So upon first glance, someone would look at an issue of cheating, and we initially like to put things into a binary situation of is it right or is it wrong? And we like to simplify matters so that we can more easily understand them and process them. However, upon further examination of what's going on, is students are in a position where, for survival purposes in a lot of cases, with the time constraints that they're placed with on their schedule, I think we have a very involved culture here. We have students that do a lot of activities. We have a lot of after-school involvement. We have kids that are maximizing their academic course load. We have jobs and works outside of school, family events, things like that. And competition for time becomes a very scarce resource. And there becomes a choice that students are put into making of, do I sleep or do I be successful at these things that I've committed to? And it almost forces them into not a binary right-wrong scenario, but a spectrum of gray, where the decision of, do I get this homework because I have to survive? It's midnight, and this is the first opportunity I'm having to do this assignment, and I look and it's already on my phone. Do I sleep or do I write down the answers to this homework assignment? We are not putting kids in a good situation if they're in that scenario, because a lot of times, if you're forced into a moral decision like that, where it's kind of gray, it's like everybody's doing it. Do I compete with them? We found that students were placed in a lot of these gray areas, and a lot of the cheating was being done out of almost a survival mechanism. Now, sure, some of it was just blatant cheating. Right, wrong was wrong. Absolutely, cheating's always wrong. But in terms of collaborating or sharing of work or dividing up of work, there was a lot of gray, and kids were kind of maybe stretching the grayness of that. And so I do think our competitive, overextended climate that we have of intensity does breed more opportunities for ethical and moral decisions to be made, and maybe made wrong, in regards to the way that people do or submit work that is or isn't theirs.
Yeah. So last year the Honor Code was enrolled in our school, and you talked about how that was part of the Honor Code was like to define like that gray area. Do you feel that it has done a better job of letting students know like their parameters and like what assignments can be collaborative and like what are like strictly like personal?
So part of if you read the academic integrity policy, the policy does outline the responsibilities of parents, students, teachers, administrators, etc. And I think that it is a step in the right direction. It is not an all-the-way problem-solved moment, because there are still decisions that we all make on a daily basis as to whether or not to do something that we think is right or wrong, or on a scale of gray, is it more towards right or is it more towards wrong? These are personal decisions that people make. I think what the policy and the Honor Code has done is that it helps to bring clarity to a world of gray, to allow people to make more informed decisions about whether or not to do what's right or wrong. And then it also outlines the responsibilities for teachers. For example, on their list of responsibilities, it is to clarify whether or not you can work with a partner on it, and what would that look like.
Yeah.
That's on the list of the teacher responsibilities, is to say, you guys can work with a partner on this, and it's fine if you want to divide up the work tonight and you do half and that person does half. Like, that's okay, or not okay. Don't divide it up. You need to do all of it by yourself. That's on the teacher to clarify that for the students. I think that helps students. That will give them at least a better place to make a decision of, am I going to do what's right or am I going to do what's wrong?
So on the policy, it says that it's part of the responsibility of the students, teachers, and parents. How did these different groups like first perceive the Honor Code? Like, were they kind of for it, or like were like some against it, or like how did they just basically react to it?
I would say it went the same way that anything new would go, in that it gets scrutinized, and there are those that are highly for it, those that are highly against it, those that are somewhat for it and somewhat against it. Anything new would be that. If I said we're going to paint the wall of this studio a different color, there would be people highly for it, highly against it, somewhat for it, somewhat against it. Anything that's new, people take a position on. I think most people, at the end of the day, once you get past people's initial reactions, would say, do we want to have more clarity about what's right and wrong in terms of doing work or making decisions about, copying a test or not copying, or receiving pictures of assignments on your phone versus others? I think most people would say, yes, more clarity in that realm is best. lack of clarity, I think, would not be best. And I think that it'd be hard pressed to find someone that would say that that's a bad idea to clarify expectations.
Mm-hmm. Have the results of the Honor Code so far been what you would have hoped of, and why?
So I am still hopeful. And again, I was only one member of a committee, so I don't want the fact that I'm on this broadcast or that you've chosen to ask me these questions to in any way signify that this was like in any way my call. I was a participant in a committee of multiple administrators, multiple teachers, board members, students, that kind of thing. And the conclusions that the group came to were the ones that you are now seeing. So these were not in any way unilateral decisions. Your question of did it turn out the way I'd hoped? Is that kind of like So my personal contribution to the committee was most colleges have honor codes. I went to a school that has a very long-standing honor code. In fact, it was written by Thomas Jefferson, and the honor code there was something that when professors would give tests, they would walk out of the room, and they would do that intentionally and say, reminder of the honor code, all of you are on your honor to neither lie, cheat, nor steal in your public or personal lives, and to report someone if they violate that. So we not only have individual personal accountability, we have collective accountability where, if you're sitting next to someone and you see that they're looking at pictures on their phone while they're taking the test, it is on you that you have to report them. That's where I went to school, that's how it was. And I never saw anyone cheating. I only had one friend that plagiarized a paper. He was kicked out of school. That only happened one time where I knew that someone had plagiarized. It was a very motivating thing, and we all had a sense of accountability to it. It created common culture, it created community, and it was something that we all rallied around. So cheating, I never saw it. And also, like I said, the professors would leave the room. They would hand the test and say, stack your tests here on the table. I'll come get them when everyone's done. Like, you could easily have taken the test or walked in and out, and people didn't because of the honor code.
Mm-hmm. So at William and Mary, that's where you went to school. It was successful there, and then here I would say it's been also successful. Why do you think that other schools should look into adopting an honor code of their own?
Like I said, that the merits of an honor code are to create a culture of ethical and moral behavior in clarifying what is right, what is wrong, removing gray from the equation when possible, and saying that we want to be a culture that stands up and does the right thing. And academically, we want to be a culture where the work that we put in is the outcome on the assessments that we produce. The work products, the tests that we take, that it reflects our personal efforts. And that we have enough integrity that if I didn't put in the effort, that I will take that F or that D or that lower grade because that's what I deserve. That my input yields a certain output.
Why is the honor code for our school important? Like, why should we continue it, and how has it benefited us?
Well, I would say even further, I would say, where do we go from here? I think we should be in a continuously refining process of examining what's working, what's not working, and refining from here. My opinion on the matter is that we should be examining how it's going from your perspective, not mine. I'd be interested to conduct the same interview from a different seat and ask you, do you guys think it's a joke? Do you think it's legit? What would you, do you agree with the merits of having it? That helping us all to make moral, ethical decisions in a better way and representing the work that we put in. Do you think that's happening? Do you not? What are your thoughts on it?
So my thoughts on it as a whole is that at first it was kind of perceived as like a joke a little bit, but after a while I think people like get past that. It's like a honor code, and they like want to have like a school that like preaches honesty, because that's like also it's beneficial for students because there's not like unfair advantages for other students, because like if you work twice as hard as someone and they just like get pictures of it, And it's not fair to you because you put in that much extra work, but they just did like less but got the same grade. But yeah, I think overall it's been beneficial, and it's definitely something we should continue to stress in our school even more. Because I think at the beginning it was definitely like a hard-hitting issue, like it was talked about in like every class, but now as time goes on, it's kind of like faded out a little bit. Like we still have the signs in every classroom with the honor code on it, but less and less teachers are like enforcing it, I guess.
Or putting it on tests.
Yeah, putting it on.
It should be at the top of every assessment you take.
I would say maybe
and you
like,
should initial on the.
Maybe like 2 out of my like 7 classes. There's that on it. Yeah.
Well, there's work to be done.
Yeah. There's always room for improvement, I feel like.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
But I think it's a worthwhile effort, and I think it's a worthwhile venture to continue to explore and pursue because, like you said, I heard the plight of students that said, I am receiving requests for the work that I have done, and I feel obligated to send pictures of work that I have done, knowing full well that the recipients of that picture are not going to do the work. They're just going to take my work and put their name on it. And it makes me feel like I'm cheating. And I want to help those kids that are in that situation to remove that pressure so that everyone mutually knows, because like I said at William & Mary, the actionable end of it was, I knew that if I saw you cheating, that there was a moral obligation that I had to report it. You hear kids say the word snitch and things like that. That's the stupidest word. In real life, that's not how things go. We're not gang members here. If I see that someone is doing something that is morally incorrect, and it is a known part of our culture that I am not okay with you debasing your own moral character, that I have a moral obligation to make that report, then I will do so without any sense of guilt. You know what I mean? I hope that we can get closer to that space because that's how we hold each other mutually accountable towards being honest, towards acting with integrity, towards demonstrating our work effort and putting our best effort towards things. When you know that we all are holding each other accountable, instead of holding each other accountable to the don't snitch on me standard, it's hold each other accountable to the no, you're better than this, more is expected in terms of your moral character.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. That is unfortunately all the time we have.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Mr. Lesnett for joining me today on this week's edition of The Edge. The Honor Code was made out of necessity, but hopefully in the future, academic integrity can become more of a norm in our school. The bottom line is just don't cheat and do your best. Thank you and have a great day. Okay, thank you.
It was great.
I don't know. It was